Happy New Year, everyone. It is finally 2021. I did not think we'd ever get to this point. It took forever, but we're here. It's a new year. Everything already seems a lot better. As soon as that calendar flipped, I felt so much better. This is Best Available Podcast, our first episode of the year, episode 22. I am here with Matt. The NFL regular season just ended yesterday, and now we have the playoffs to look forward to for the next month. So we're going to get into that. We have a couple movies that I think we need to talk about. We have sports trivia. That's a popular segment now on the show. And we might have some other surprises along the way. So Matt, how has your new year been so far?
It's been a really positive 4 days, Ryan. I think that's how we kind of have to look at everything in 2021. Just take it from a positive outlook. Usually, Ryan, I use my opening statement of this podcast to complain about something. But today, Ryan, I'm going to be positive and motivational. So for everyone that's got a New Year's resolution, go out and do it. Support each other. You can do it. We all can do our resolutions. That's motivational Matt here on this Monday afternoon, Ryan. So no resolution is too crazy to achieve.
I'm going to take your spot this week. I do have something that actually pops my tarts.
Ooh.
I like the positivity, Matt. I agree with you there. But I cleaned my room this weekend. I actually cleaned it yesterday because the Eagles did not play until Sunday night. So I decided to be productive and clean my room. I did a nice deep clean. I mean, dusted, I vacuumed, I cleaned the walls, I cleaned these, well, you can't see them here, but there's shelves like above my windows that I cleaned the stuff that was on the shelf. It was about a 6-hour process. And what pops my tarts this week is dust. I hate dust. I don't think I hate anything in this world more than dust. It just shows up everywhere. You think you finally got it all, and then you just see more that you missed. I did the thing where I was dusting my fan, and I kind of took a rag, and I brought it towards me, and long story short, all this dust just came over me like snowfall. And I was coughing. It got in my mouth. It got in my nose. It got all over my clothes. I was just very perturbed. So dust is what pops my tarts this week, Matt.
It's a common thing. We have a dust problem in my house as well. We have I think it's more so with carpeting, right? Because when we lived in our house at school, Ryan, we had all like hardwood floors, right? Floors that weren't carpet, right? There was no carpet in that house. And it was a lot easier to clean. And then I came home and it accumulates after like a week. So all that dust that you just had rain down on you, Ryan, is going to be back in like a month. That's the reality. And where does it come from? That's my question. I agree with you. But again, positivity on this Monday morning, I guess afternoon. But I agree. It does pop my tarts as well.
I'll tell you, though, it was really fulfilling when I walked out of the room to put some stuff in the trash, and then I walked back in with everything all clean. That nice cleansing aura it hits you. It makes you feel 100% better no matter what your mood was initially. So I will say that was a productive use of my day yesterday. I probably should clean more. That way it doesn't take 6 hours, but my room is now clean. So now that's a great way to start 2021. I got rid of all the 2020 bleh, and now we're starting fresh. So, NFL playoffs. And before we start with the playoffs, both of our teams are done. So I wanted to just use this opportunity to let us talk about the season a little bit. So Matt, your Patriots are not going to be in the playoffs for the first time since 2008. It's been it's been a remarkable run, one that we may never see again, and it had to end at some point, and it finally ended this year. They finished 7-9, and they finished third in the AFC East. So talk about your team, whatever you want to say about the season. You just go right ahead.
Do I have to talk about them? I mean, they
You can
stink.
you can give me like a little one sentence recap if you want to. I don't know if you had any thoughts or
I
anything.
went in after September. I was very high on the whole Cam Newton thing, and then I realized that he really doesn't have it anymore. When people say, "Oh, it's not Cam's fault," I just implore those people to go and watch the games. He's overthrowing people. He's throwing 95-mile-an-hour fastballs on like a 3-yard slant. He's underthrowing guys. Balls are in the dirt. He's clearly not the guy. They don't have any receivers. They don't have any tight ends. We're going to lose probably a couple of the offensive line guys to free agency. We had no linebackers. And then the best part about this season, Ryan, is you get the 15th overall pick. And then I told you right before we went on, I have a really strong feeling Bill's going to trade that pick because that's just what he does. And then this whole disappointment of a season is going to be not worth it because he's just going to trade out of the first round. So, we'll see. I'm optimistic about the offseason. I think they could really do some good work at the free agent market, draft undrafted free agents, the whole 9 yards, get some opt-outs back in. So I'm optimistic, but the season itself, if there's any year you're going to do that, let it be 2020.
Well, they'll need to have an impressive offseason to keep up with the other teams in their division, which is something we haven't had to say in a while, because the Bills, as long as Josh Allen does not regress next year, which I don't believe that he will, as long as the improvements stay intact, they're going to be back. They're going to be very good. The Dolphins, unfortunately, missed the playoffs this year, but they finished 10-6, and there are some positives there. They just have to figure out if they need another quarterback or if they're going to give two of the reins again next year, but they have talent there. The Jets, obviously, they're a couple years out, but they're going to have a new coach, a new quarterback, and some other new pieces, so they should be more competitive. So the Patriots will definitely need to get some pieces this offseason just to try to remain competitive. I mean, what's the outlook? Is this a team that can get back to the playoffs next year, do you
Yeah.
think, or is it going to take a little bit?
No, I think if they make some of the moves that I hinted at, I think they could be on the same level as the Dolphins. I don't see why they can't. I mean, when you think about who opted out, Dante Hightower, who was the captain of the defense, you have Patrick Chung, who's going to come back. Then you have the fourth highest cap space in free agency this offseason to go out and spend some money, go get a quarterback, or maybe get a cheap guy like Fitzpatrick, then draft a quarterback. I'd be fine with that. But the only way they're going to be on the level of Miami, Ryan, is if you get the opt-outs back and you draft well and you get a number one receiver and then maybe a tight end. If all those things happen, then they could do it. But I don't know. The Patriots traditionally wait very long time free agency-wise. They're not like the day one people that go out and spend the money, but they're going to have to this year if they want anyone to show up at Gillette in 2021. So I'm not doing another year of N'Keal Harry. That guy stinks. He's horrible. So go out and get Kenny Galladay, whoever else is out there on the free agent market. Go get somebody who could catch the ball. But with that being said, Ryan, I know it's a long list of things they have to do, but if they get like 80% of those components, I think they could compete for a wild card spot. Keyword compete for all those listening out there. I'm not saying they're going to be dominant Tom Brady level, some kind of bias, but they let's face it, they were 7-9. It's not like they sucked, right? And they're going to play a third place schedule next year, so they go out and make the moves. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I mean, the AFC was very strong this year. I mean, every team that made it in had at least 11 wins. So that doesn't happen every year. I mean, next year it might take a step back a little bit. I mean, the teams you're looking at competing against, you said Miami. I think if they make the right moves, I think they can compete with them. Las Vegas is going to be in that mix of a wild card team. The Chargers ended the season very strong, and with a new coaching staff, you'd like to think that they will be in that mix. And then you have Indy at 11-5, Cleveland, Baltimore, Tennessee all at 11-5. I mean, those are all teams that I think the Patriots could be in the realm of. I agree with you. I'm not saying they're going to overtake everybody and get back to the top, but I think it's possible to get back into that mix and maybe not be a contender, but at least make some noise again. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways they could go, I think. And I'm interested to see what they do.
Yeah, I want Mac Jones, Ryan. I've talked myself into Mac Jones. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for Zach Wilson. I've talked myself into him too. He won't be there at 15,
Nope.
judging by how draft boards are going now. He used to be, but at this rate, I'd be perfectly fine with what the Dolphins did this year and just take Fitzpatrick because he's going to keep you in every single game no matter what, and he's exciting, right? I mean, I just want an exciting football team. Because I implore people who are listening to go and watch, not the highlight reel, go back and watch a Patriots game from start to finish, and they couldn't throw the ball. I took it for granted for 20 years to have a quarterback who knew how to pass the ball down the field and read schemes and do all this stuff. I mean, it was a struggle to get a first down for most of the year. So if they just accomplish that, Ryan, I don't care what the hell happens else. I mean, I just want them to be able to move the ball down the field, and I don't want to have to celebrate a first down. That's what I don't want to have to do. It was like watching like a wing T high school football offense. It was just not efficient at all.
Yeah, I mean, I had watched. I didn't watch as many Patriots games as you did, obviously, but I mean, I watched a fair amount, and it was rough watching that offense try to move the ball each week. They weren't as bad as the Jets last year when they had guys like Luke Falk under center. Like they weren't that bad, but you could tell it was not the same. And I don't think there was much Bill or Josh or anyone could do over there to try to make it any better. So I think he said what needed to be said, and I don't think I see some people writing this team off as it's going to take them a while to get back. I'd hazard on that. I think that this team will be fine. They have the right people in charge. They just need to get They just need to get some talent in. I think Brady masked a lot of the issues for a number of years, but they just need some talent, and I think they can get that. Do you have anything else you'd like to say? Any parting words about your New England Patriots?
I'm excited about the offseason. It's the first time in a while I'm excited about the draft and free agency. Like, it's going to be a new team. It's a blank slate for Bill. I think he really, relishes that opportunity in a way, judging by how he's been answering these questions. So I think everyone's excited up there. Kind of change things up a little bit. You have the cap space and the flexibility in the draft picks. So I get why this year was the way it is, and next year should be better.
All right. Well, you have reasons for optimism, which I'm happy about. We just talked about it. Positivity 2021. My team, I don't have a lot of reasons for optimism. They finished 4-11-1. They're going to be picking 6th in the NFL draft, the highest they've picked since. I mean, technically they picked Wentz at number 2, but I mean, this is the worst they finished in a season since 2012 when they went 4-12. That was the last year of Andy Reid. And apparently they're going to run it back again next year. They're bringing back Howie Roseman. They're bringing back Doug Peterson. So there's not going to be any changes in that regard. It was not a very good season. Ever since the Super Bowl, this team has regressed. Regardless of what Doug and Howie, how they try to paint the picture, this team has regressed heavily. And now it's looking more like 2017 was an outlier and not the new norm like they wanted it to be. It's upsetting as a fan because it seems like that positive culture that we built no longer exists. It seems like all the shrewd, smart moves we made no longer happen, and now we make really bad moves and really questionable decisions. And it's hard to be confident in the future of this organization. They're capped out. They have a lot of old guys on bad contracts. They don't have a lot of young talent on the team. So it's hard to be positive about where this team's going to be. They have, I mean, Matt, you talked about some of the needs that the Patriots have. The Eagles, you don't know who your starting quarterback's going to be, and both of the options you have they come with a lot of question marks. You need superstar type wide receivers, which they have none of right now. I think Jalen Reagor can still be a good receiver, but it's hard to see what Justin Jefferson's doing and then compare him to what Reagor did this year. You need some offensive line depth. I'd like to think that you need a good edge rusher. You need help at cornerback behind Darius Slay. You need some help at safety. You have you have one linebacker in Alex Singleton that I think can play adequately. I think people overrate him a little bit, but he was still fun to watch this year. You need you need a new defensive coordinator. You need to find some offensive coordinator to come in and help Doug out because it's clear he can't do it all on his own. This team just needs so much, and I just don't know how they turn it around in 1 year and become a contender. It's tough. It's tough to be a fan of this team right now. And now it seems like there's factions within the fan base. You have the people that want to coddle Wentz and defend him and feel bad for him and this, that, and the other. You have people on the opposite side who hate Wentz and just want him gone. There's very few people that are actually just a fan of this team anymore. Now we're fans of quarterbacks or certain players, which is a shame. So I don't know how they fix all these issues. It's going to be the most interesting offseason this team has had in a while. And it's hard to see them. I hate to say it, but it seems like the other teams in their division are more ready to compete than they are. Washington's a quarterback away. The Giants, they need a couple more pieces, and you can make a case they might need a quarterback, and they're right there. Dallas, you get Dak back, and you invest heavily in the defense. They're going to be good. The Eagles might be the worst team. It's not. They are the worst team in this division right now. It's a shame to see how far they've fallen.
Yeah, I mean, remember, Ryan, Andy Dalton's the savior in Dallas. I mean, they don't even need Dak Prescott. With the Eagles, it's really interesting. You mentioned it, us being in South Jersey, we see this whole faction thing come out. People were calling for Doug's job after last night, Ryan. I mean, we haven't really talked about what happened on Sunday Night Football, but people were calling for Peterson's job. People were saying, oh, where's Wentz? This is Wentz's fault. As a joke, obviously, because they don't like Hurts. And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think the three teams you named are on a different tier compared to the Eagles. You're going to get a good draft pick, though, which will be nice. Get a nice receiver at the top of the draft. But yeah, I think that you're kind of locked into this whole Wentz and Hurts thing, whether you like it or not. Whether they both are good or whether they both suck. I mean, when you look at Wentz's contract, he still wants a trade. I really don't know how you're going to trade him, right? He's only in the second year of his deal now?
No, that's the problem. He's not even the extension hasn't even kicked in yet. That's the issue. He's still due all this money.
Yeah, so you almost either have to rework this or it's going to be impossible to move him. Or you're going to have to take advantage of a team that needs a guy like a Nick Foles in Jacksonville situation a couple years ago. It's really going to be some weird thing like that. And then with Hurts, too, drafting him so high, you're kind of obligated to play him. It's a mess that I think the front office and the coaching staff put the team into. I don't think it's really the players' fault, Ryan. I think they kind of walked themselves into that situation that they're going to have to maneuver through. I would argue, I don't know how Elliott was the whole season, but the kicking game seemed pretty inconsistent in some of the games I watched. I mean,
they can't cut him either because he's making too much money. He's one of the highest paid kickers in the league, and he's on a bad contract now too. They have no flexibility. You just got to find some old guy like Nick Folk on a $1 million deal or something. It's tough. I feel bad for Eagles fans. I mean, I also don't, in a way, I don't feel bad for Patriots fans like myself because you got a Super Bowl out of it within the past couple years. And I have no issue with what they did last night. I really don't. I mean, people are going to sit there and moan and complain and just be better. Don't rely on a 4-win team to make the playoffs. Right? I mean, that's the simplest answer. So I know we'll probably talk about it, but I have no issue with what they did last night. They should have picked up their practice squad quarterback and let him play too. That might have been Sudfeld. I had no idea. Let them all play. I'm going to get to that in a second because that really, This is the year of optimism and positivity. That the reaction to what happened last night pissed me off a lot, way more than it should have, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But you brought up a good point. The common theory this offseason among so many people is that Wentz is going to get traded, and I scratch my head at that a lot because these other GMs and front offices around the league, they're not stupid. They see the same things that everybody else sees, right? And what they see now is a quarterback that is about to be, based on his production level, on one of the worst contracts in the entire league. He signed a 4-year, $128 million contract extension last year, and it didn't even kick in yet. So that's already an issue. Like, you can, based on, if you think that you can fix him, that's one thing. But then you get into the issue of looking how this guy's played. People in this city that love Wentz, they love to point out, okay, well, he was elite in 2017, MVP candidate. He was really, really good in 2018. He was great in 2019, and that's where I lose interest in that kind of conversation. People look at his 2019 statistics, and they think that he did really well. And it was kind of the case this year, too. People love to cite these volume statistics when they defend Wentz. And what that indicates to me, and I'm going to sound like a real arrogant snob when I say this, but what that indicates to me is that they don't watch the games. They just look at the box scores, they look at the game logs, they see that he throws for this amount of yards and these many touchdown passes, and he does this and that or the other. That indicates to me that you're not really seeing how this guy is playing on a week-to-week basis. And last year, he was not a good quarterback. He was middle of the road at best. This year, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the National Football League. He was better than maybe Sam Darnold when it comes to people that started a lot of games. And that's it. And that's that company that you want to be in. Carson Wentz, as it stands right now, has a lot to work on. After 5 years in the NFL, he still has a lot to work on. He's not good right now. It's not just he regressed. He fell down 2 flights of stairs, right? You look at the history of quarterbacks that have regressed as heavily as Wentz did this year, it's not kind. They don't just bounce back normally. It's very rare. And far be it for me to expect a guy like Wentz to bounce back. I don't know. I say it every week. I want the guy to succeed, but I'm always painted as a hater because I bring up his flaws and his weak points in his game. If I'm a front office, I don't want to trade for this guy. For 5 years, he's had the same issues that he's never fixed them. Why? What would make me think that my coaching staff is the one that can fix them? Like, what can you look at with Carson Wentz right now and say, okay, you know what I see? I see a guy that can be top 10. Tier 2. I see a guy that can lead my team to a title. It's more looking like 2017 was the outlier. And we see this all the time. A quarterback has a really, really good year, and then he can never get back to it. And I think that's the case with Wentz. I don't think he's ever going to get back to that level. Call me crazy. I find it hard to believe he's ever going to be that good again. That seemed like a flash in the pan at this point.
Well, one of the biggest arguments that I see a lot of Eagles fans make is, oh, look at the weapons he's had the past couple of years. He's working with practice squad guys. I mean, go look at what Aaron Rodgers has been working with for basically his whole career, right? I mean, outside of Devontae Adams, the past couple of years, he's been working with the same quality of guys, right? I mean, even Tom Brady for the past couple of years in New England. And I get he's not on the same level as these guys, but it's not like he's the only one experiencing these issues of not having weapons. So it can be done. And for someone who was drafted number 2 overall, Ryan, I would expect better results than what he's doing. And I agree, there's a lot more of the box score fans than the fans that'll sit and watch the fact that he has no awareness of the pocket whatsoever and will just walk right into a defensive tackle half the time. I mean, that's the biggest problem. You have to watch, especially, and those same kind of fans happen with the Patriots when they say, oh, well, Tom Brady's kind of washed up, it wasn't the case. They had no receivers. And with Wentz, you got to watch. And I'll never forget, I guess it was when they played the Giants in week 7 or whatever week it was. He must have walked into 3 or 4 sacks in one half, which is something I've never really seen before. So that's my case on it. I mean, he might not have a lot of weapons, but at the same time, he has the arm talent to be able to complete passes when he needs to. So the issues are still there. This city has a weird fascination with this guy. We talked about it a couple weeks ago or last week or whenever. I'll never understand it. I really won't. But hey, those fans are gonna be watching him hold the clipboard for a couple of years. So he's not getting traded. Moving deals like that in the NFL, Ryan, is so hard to do compared to like the NBA or Major League Baseball, because it's so hard to A, match the contract up, B, have the room to absorb it, and C, have a situation to where you're going to take a risk on a guy for 4+ years with all that money that he's going to make. This is the wrong sport if you want to move a contract like that. So you're going to be watching him hold the clipboard with a hat on. That's what's it's going to be.
I do. This isn't an Eagles podcast, but we have to talk about it because it made national headlines for some reason. Doug Peterson putting in Nate Sudfeld last night led to a bunch of reactions from a bunch of different corners. Giants players were shocked, and they were tweeting their feelings. People were saying that it was a disgrace that Doug would do something like this. People said the Eagles blatantly tanked last night, this, that, and the other. As I said, it pissed me off a lot. Number one, the thing that pissed me off the most was that people said, oh, imagine how these Giants players feel. You got to feel bad for them. No, I don't. This was a team that started 1-7. They lost 3 or 4 down the stretch, and they finished 6-10. I don't have to feel bad for this team. I said it on Twitter. This team had multiple opportunities this year to not have to be in a position where they're relying on a 4-10-1 team to win a meaningless game for them in order for the Giants to make the playoffs. That's not a good position to be in. I don't have to feel bad for anybody in that organization. I don't care. Go cry me a river. Win more games. Win more than 6 games in a season if you want me to feel bad. You want me to feel bad for any team? I feel bad for Miami. Miami went 10-6 and they're not in the playoffs. I know they got blown out by the Bills. That's a fair point, but still, that's a team that you can feel a little bad for. I'm not feeling bad for a 6-10 team in the worst division of all time. Number 2, if this happened at 1 p.m., nobody would care. But because it happened on Sunday night, because the league felt that it was smart to flex this game to Sunday night, now it made national news, it made national headlines, and it made everybody care about it when they normally wouldn't. And you have people calling this a disgrace. This has happened every year in the NFL, and nobody cared. Nobody pointed anything out. The Colts voluntarily started Curtis Painter, Dan Orlovsky, and they pulled Kerry Collins out of retirement to start that season that Manning was out. Nobody cared. They went 2-14. Nobody brought anything up. They were fine with them getting luck and getting another generational quarterback. Nobody cared. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2014 voluntarily started a 35-year-old Josh McCown. They could try to get the number 1 pick in the draft the next season. Nobody cared. Nobody brought anything up. The Jaguars this season voluntarily started Mike Glennon when Gardner Minshew was healthy. Nobody said anything. But as soon as Doug Peterson did what he said he was going to do, he said he was going to try to get Nate Sudfeld playing time in the game. As soon as he puts in Nate Sudfeld in the 4th quarter with 12 minutes left of a meaningless game, I don't care what Washington was playing for. The Eagles were playing for nothing. As soon as Doug does that, it's suddenly a disgrace to not put your team in the best position to win. Teams do this every year. And now because the Eagles did it, it's suddenly a disgrace. Matt, I need you to tell me, am I missing something? Because the NFL is the one sport that incentivizes you for losing. But suddenly, because the Eagles do it on Sunday night, it's a big deal. And everybody hates it. Nobody said anything before, but now everyone hates it.
I agree with you. I mean, I think it's a nice way to reward a guy in Sudfeld who put in the work the whole year, probably on the practice squad, right, and got a chance to get in the game. I don't see an issue in it. Every team does it. You were right. I mean, the biggest example was that Colts team that started a guy who went on to complain about it last night in Orlovsky, disrespecting the game. I mean, this was a worse reaction, Ryan, than when Myles Garrett assaulted Mason Rudolph with a helmet last year, right? I mean, or when the Dominican Sue stepped on a guy. There's certain things that happen. It's crazy to me to think that a decision like this would have created such a backlash just because it affected another team. Why should the Eagles care about the Giants? Why should they have to make their decisions based off of the implications of other teams? I don't know how it disrespects the game. The game is set up for them to benefit more from losing. As you mentioned, if you want to eliminate that, if you want to eliminate Mike Glennon from playing regular season games like you said, make a draft lottery. Or make it somehow to where you don't directly benefit from going 2-14 or whatever record your team is, right? So I see no issue in it. I really don't. Giants players complaining on Twitter, just don't lose, what was it, 3 of their last 4? Don't lose 3 of your last 4. I mean, the Giants really essentially, Ryan, controlled their own destiny. When you look at how everyone in that division was playing at the time when they were first place and right in the thick of it, they really just had to win one more game, right? They couldn't do that. So I feel no remorse for the Eagles and what they do. I mean, they shouldn't either. Who cares? They're 4-11-1. Who cares? I just don't understand it. I don't understand how it's disrespectful to the game. When, again, we've seen some crazy stuff in our lifetime, right, Ryan? When, some crazy things that shouldn't be happening, like players punching each other and stepping on each other and all kinds of other stuff and players holding out, and this is the most disrespectful thing to the game? They're starting to sound like baseball fans, Ryan. Come on.
The 2017 Cleveland Browns started Deshaun Kaiser at quarterback 15 times. Nobody said anything. The 2016 Cleveland Browns had a rotation of Cody Kessler, a 37-year-old Josh McCown, and a washed-up Robert Griffin III. Nobody said anything. The 2016 49ers started Blaine Gabbert voluntarily for 5 games, and nobody said anything. This has been something that fans view as cute when teams are losing a lot down the stretch and they're following their team on Tankathon or wherever, and they see their team losing a lot of games to get a better draft position. This is something that people have always enjoyed. They think it's cute. They love to follow it. But as soon as the Eagles do it, it's not okay anymore. As soon as a team like the Eagles decides, hey, you know what? If we win this game, we got to pick 9th. But if we lose, we pick 6th. That's a big difference, believe it or not. So we're just, we're going to put in Nate. We're going to give him some time. Whatever happens, happens. And that's suddenly a big issue. So, Matt, I agree. There's so many things on a year-to-year basis that happen in this league that are worth getting upset about. The Eagles putting in Nate Sudfeld in the 4th quarter of a game, that's not it. But
Is it disrespectful to the game for Chad Henne to play for the Chiefs in Week 17 because they wanted to rest guys? Is it disrespectful when the Patriots used to play, I don't know, Brian Hoyer or Matt Castle or whoever the hell the backup was in Week 17? Right? I mean, give me a break, right? It's just so stupid. And if any Giants fan is sitting there upset today about it, get over it. You're going to get a pretty decent draft pick out of it. On top of that, I don't know why Giants fans are pissed off, Ryan. They avoided picking 19th in the draft after winning 6 games. Why are they pissed off? What is there to be? They should be thanking Eagles fans and thanking the Eagles for what they did. Why do you want to make the playoffs and get blown out by the Buccaneers? It'd be different if you were a winning team, but they had 6 wins. If any Giants fan could realistically tell me they were going to beat Tampa Bay, then I will gladly pay for them to go to MetLife and watch them get blown out. But it's just not going to happen. Ridiculous.
Listen, in the moment, I can understand because I'd be the same way in the moment if it was the other way around. I saw the Giants put in whoever their backup. If I saw the Giants put in, well, not even their backup, third string quarterback, I would be upset too. I'd be pissed
I'm
off.
not saying
I
in the
get it.
moment. I'm not saying in the
But
moment.
yeah,
I'm
I
saying the
agree.
day after.
If you can, after the initial shock, you need to be able to take a step back and realize that this is something that always happens, and that if you're relying on a 4-10-1 team to win a game so you can make the playoffs at 6-10, maybe there's bigger issues. That's it. Done.
That's what I'm saying is when you have the hindsight of how the team's going to benefit from the result of it, I mean, Giants fans should be happy waking up. You're going to get a good draft pick. You won 6 games in a head coach's first year. Things are starting to kind of turn around a little bit. I don't see what the issue is. In the moment, I get it, but I shouldn't be still seeing this 24 hours after it happened. Or, tonight. I shouldn't still be seeing people complain about it. It's not disrespectful to the game either. I'm tired of seeing that take on TV too. Just be better. Go
Matt,
Birds, Ryan. Nate Studfeld.
Matt, the NFL playoffs start this weekend, and now it's no longer wild card weekend. We have to add an adjective. Now it's super wild card weekend. Whoa, super. So we got some fun games on tap. We have a game that's going to be on Nickelodeon that apparently Iron Eagle's kid is going to call. I'm so excited for that. So we'll start in the AFC. The Bills got the number 2 seed with their win over. They would have gotten it anyway because the Steelers lost, but they got the number 2 seed with the win over Miami. And by getting the number 2 seed, number 1, they avoid the Chiefs until the conference championship game. Number 2, they get to play the number 7 seed, which in this case turned out to be the Indianapolis Colts. Matt, the Bills look like the only team in the AFC that can probably compete with Kansas City. You can maybe make a case for Baltimore, but I'm not going to. Regardless, the Bills are a team with a lot of momentum. They're very talented on both sides of the ball. They have a great coaching staff. We said that we would have rather seen Miami in the playoffs than Indianapolis. Now looking back on it, I guess it really wouldn't have made a difference either way. But I think the Bills win this one easily. I can't see Indy with Phillip Rivers going into Buffalo and pulling out a win as the 7 seed. I think it's good. I think it's cool that Indy made the playoffs, but I think that this is probably going to be a not competitive game on Super Wild Card Weekend.
Yeah, I think Super Wild Card Weekend is going to have a lot of super big margins for a lot of these games. I don't see a lot of close ones going to come out of this, especially with this one, Ryan. You look at what Buffalo did, 50-plus points against a good Miami defense. Good for Indy, like you said. I really think the Buffalo-Kansas City rematch of, what was it, Week 5 or something? I mean, that's going to be something to watch. So we got to hope that it gets to that point. Buffalo is going to take care of business, hopefully, in front of some fans, which will be good to see, right? I mean, the first home playoff game in like a century, it feels like for them. So I was happy to see Cuomo let some fans in. That'll be exciting. Obviously, it won't be the normal Orchard Park, but it'll be something. It'll be fun to watch. Josh Allen looks good. Looks really good. So, blowout. That's one of the many blowouts that I'm going to say when we go through these games, Ryan. Blowout.
Another game. Now, this one could go either way. I could see this one being a blowout in favor of the higher seeded team. I could see it being close and ugly. It's the 3 seed, the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Browns, so it's a rematch of Week 17. It's just at a different venue. The Browns early in the season got blown out by the Steelers, 38-7. That put the Steelers up to 5-0. They won a close battle yesterday, a game that they were, I'd say, almost lucky to win. The Steelers were a 2-point conversion away from making it even more interesting than it already was. As it was, with Ben Roethlisberger on the bench, the Steelers couldn't pull out the W. We've talked at ends about how bad the Steelers' offenses looked recently, even with Ben under center. We know how good the defense is. I think they have enough to get over Cleveland, who's making their first playoff appearance since 2002. I think that they have enough talent to be able to beat them. but I'd like to think, and maybe I'm biased because I'm always rooting for the Browns, I'd like to think Cleveland can keep it close and keep it competitive. I might be wrong on that, though. I probably will be. But I'd really like to think Cleveland can make this a competitive game.
Well, the Steelers, you were right. Really, were kind of making a late push yesterday without their quarterback. This is kind of tough because we really have been saying over the past month, we really don't know what Pittsburgh is. We're tossing around the F word of them possibly being frauds. Cleveland, I still think they're kind of sporadic. Some weeks you're going to get Baker Mayfield of what he was at the beginning of the season, not really looking too great, and other weeks you're going to have Nick Chubb running all over your defense. So you never know what you're going to get out of either of these two teams. I agree that it could go one of two ways. Ryan, am going to go with Pittsburgh. Barely. I hope Cleveland wins, but I also think if Cleveland wins, they're going to get absolutely torched by Kansas City the following week. So for the sake of watchability, you got to pull for the Steelers. But I don't know. Neither of these two teams are really going to do anything in the playoffs, I don't think. And now that I said that, one of them will be in the Super Bowl. So there you go.
Well, Matt, the most interesting matchup on the AFC side got relegated to the ESPN Nickelodeon game. And the reason for that, in case anybody was curious, these are, for football purposes, this is a very good game. For market purposes, Tennessee and Baltimore aren't the biggest markets. So I think it was always going to be very obvious that, number one, the AFC South would keep their hold on the ESPN game. And number two, it was going to be this matchup. This will be, as I said, the best matchup on the AFC side. At least it should be. These are two teams that have had completely different seasons. The Titans have been kind of consistently good all year. They were lucky to win the division. They almost lost to Houston yesterday, but they were able to pull that one out as time expired. As their kicker hit it off the right upright and it bounced in, luckily, so it wasn't a double doink. The Ravens, they had a very rough beginning to the season, but they turned it on when it mattered, and they were able to make a run to the postseason. I mean, this was a Ravens team at one point coming off of a loss to the Steelers. They were 6-5. It looked like they were dead in the water, but they ended the season on a 5-game winning streak. We went into it, we said these are 5 winnable games, and they won all 5 of them, and now they're in the playoffs. I really don't want to bet against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. It seems like the offense is finally clicking. I mean, you look at their last 5 weeks, 34, 47, 40, 27, 38. It seems like this is the offense we were expecting. But I think I got to go Tennessee on this one. I really love the way the Tennessee's offense operates with the play action. I love Ryan Tannehill. I think he's he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league as it stands right now. And I think the Titans have what it takes to avoid the upset and move on to the divisional round.
Well, Lamar Jackson's still looking for his first playoff win, right? Because lost to the Chargers 2 years ago. Last year, disappointing loss to these Titans. So a chance to redeem himself. And I think they could do it. I mean, we've been hammering the Ravens the past couple weeks. Hottest team in football, right up there with Buffalo. Listen, I've been tossing around the F word with Tennessee for a while now. I think they're a great team, but do I think that they are going to be able to withstand what Baltimore's going to throw at them? I don't think so. I mean, the Ravens look really good, Ryan, especially on the offensive side. I mean, you're right. Tennessee really struggled against a Houston team that I think is better than their record is. To give some credit to Deshaun Watson, I think Tennessee at times, against some of the better teams that they've played on their schedule, they haven't really come to play, right? You lose to Pittsburgh, you lose to an Indy team that obviously is now in the playoff picture. You lost to a Browns team that's in the playoff picture. You lost to the Packers. So you look at their losses, they lost 4 of their 5 losses to playoff teams. And then you look at the rest of the schedule in terms of quality wins. You beat the Colts. They did beat the Ravens, but only by 1 possession. And you did beat the Bills, but that was early on in the year when you were still hammering that Josh Allen wasn't a great quarterback. So in terms of what's happened recently, I am tending to lean towards Baltimore. I might be wrong. It's hard to stop Derrick Henry, especially in the playoffs, but I'm going to ride with the hot hand here in Baltimore. I could also see this game being a blowout too, Ryan. Very thin possibility that happens, but I could also see that being a blowout.
I might change my pick before the weekend. Right now, I'm on Tennessee. I might change my pick before the weekend. So check on our website and our Instagram page where our picks will be posted to see if I did change my pick from Tennessee to Baltimore. I'm going to flip flop on this one all week probably. But I agree. There is a scenario where this one turns out to be not very close. I hope that's not the case. I'm looking forward to this one more than any of the other ones in the AFC, but we'll see. The NFC, the Packers got the number 1 seed yesterday with their win over the Chicago Bears, who still made the playoffs because Arizona lost. So the Saints and the Bears are your 2-7 matchup. We talked about how important it was for Drew Brees to be able to be at home. He's not going to be at home for the entire postseason, but he is at home for the first round, at least. If it was a different team, I could maybe see the Saints falling again in the wild card round, but it's hard for me to see Mitchell Trubisky leading the Chicago Bears to a victory. I know they beat the Saints earlier in the season. The Bears did. I can't see it happening again, especially on the road. I know home field advantage doesn't mean as much as it used to in this year, but I find it hard to believe that the Saints won't get past the first round this year.
Yeah, this game is one of 2 on the NFC side, right? I think all 3 NFC games could be kind of boring, right? I mean, depending on how you look at some of these matchups. Yeah, good for Chicago that you made it, but they're just in a different stratosphere, New Orleans is. So, sure, give me the Saints. I don't really think Chicago deserves a lot of airtime on this podcast. I mean, good for them, but it would... Now, if they lose, Ryan, if New Orleans loses this game, we're just going to shut the door and throw the key away for their window. We're gonna just... This is never going to happen again, this Super Bowl window for New Orleans. It's now or never. So... They lost to the Vikings last year, so who knows?
That's why that's why I'm not as confident in the Saints as I should be since they're a 2 seed. But because of their recent history, there's something about it that I'm not 100% confident. I mean, I could really see a situation where the offense doesn't get going and the Bears make it an ugly game and they somehow keep it close. For the Saints' sake, I hope that's not the case, but I could see that happening. But I agree in terms of what you said. These 3 matchups, they're not. I mean, wild card matchups in general, they're not super great. The divisional round is normally where you see the best matchups, but yeah, this year in particular, these matchups are all a little rough, I think.
No, but Ryan, remember, this is different. This is super wild card weekend.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that makes it better.
It's not just wild card weekend. Yeah, the super. I mean, but I'm saying when you have 6 matchups, you have a better likelihood of at least getting 1 or 2 good games. I would think, even though you're spreading out the seeds. Well, like we're going to talk about the other 2 NFC matchups, depending on how Jared Goff's health is. I mean, that Seahawks game could mean nothing. John Wolford?
Even if Goff is healthy, even if he was fully healthy, I should say, these 2 teams are not going to do anything. One of these teams is obviously going to advance to the divisional round, but they're going to get blown out by whoever they end up playing. The Seahawks completely fell apart as the season went on. They're not the team that I was banging the hammer on early in the season, like, oh, Wilson's an MVP candidate. This team could be one to watch. I know they won their last 4 games, but they didn't play it. They played the Jets. They played football team. They played the Rams when Goff got injured, and they played the 49ers. This team has not been impressive since early November. And I don't know. This game sucks. This is the game I'm probably the least excited for out of any of the matchups this week. Like I guess I would have to go with the Seahawks just because I think they're probably more talented than the Rams, and I don't think the Rams can. Man, I don't know. I don't know. I'm without words because I don't know what this matchup is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take Seattle, but imagine that, Ryan. An empty Seattle stadium playing against a Rams team that's had the chance to be pretty good, and then Jared Goff kind of got hurt, and they still managed to get into the playoffs. Goff wasn't really playing too well before he got hurt anyway. I mean, it's kind of You feel bad for Joe and Troy that they got to go out there for that. Seattle didn't look good until the second half and really the fourth quarter of yesterday's game. So I'll take Seattle. 7-1 at home will merit a pick from me for wild card weekend, super wild card weekend. But yeah, this matchup would have looked a lot better, Ryan, a month ago. We would have been clamoring for this matchup a month ago. But it doesn't have the same juice anymore.
Yeah, I'll go with the Seahawks just because I find it hard to believe even if Goff does play, he'll be effective. So I guess I have to go with Seattle by default. And even though I don't really want to do it. And then the final matchup, I guess it's even more of a joke than the Seahawks game, if you can believe that. Washington football team won the division, so that, once again, the NFC East does not have a repeat winner. That's always a fun storyline going into the year. And they are going to be playing Tampa Bay, hammer Tampa Bay. I'm interested to see what the opening line is for the game. Tampa Bay.
8.
Yeah, it is now. Yeah, okay. I would be shocked if Tampa Bay doesn't win this game by at least 3 touchdowns. Really should not be. If it is close, there's an issue. But Tampa Bay, they've been rolling the past couple of weeks, and really even longer than that. Brady has looked like vintage Brady the past couple of weeks. It's been fun to watch. I think Tampa Bay gets through this pretty easily.
Yeah, Giants fans really wanted this matchup. You're not after Saturday night. Feel bad for Mike Tirico to have to go out and call this game. I will say, though, Ryan, I think out of any of the NFC East teams to at least has a chance to make it watchable, it's this Washington team because of their defense. Their defense has been good pretty much all year. You have Chase Young there, some watchable guys. Question's obviously going to be at the quarterback position. Alex Smith and his health. It's great to see him out there, come back part of the year, but yeah, I mean it's just kind of not. It's laughable at how much more Tampa Bay has compared to this Washington team. So yeah, there's a realistic scenario, Ryan, to where none of these games are close this weekend. None of them. Outside of maybe the Baltimore-Tennessee game. There's a chance all of these could be multi-score games. Talk about that for super.
I'm very excited to watch the game on Nickelodeon. I'm thrilled to see what happens there. Well, that was our NFL. I mean, hockey's coming back. That's next week, so we can talk about the NHL next week. That'll be fun. Baseball, there's still not much going on. Hopefully things kind of get kicked in gear here a little bit since we're in January. Hopefully it doesn't take until March to get some of these guys signed, but who knows? Let's do some trivia. Trivia is always fun, and then we'll get into our movies. So last week, Matt went 500. We did 10 questions. He got 5 of them right, so he's hitting 50% right now, which is good. Get some cards here. This is great. Awesome. Okay. All right, Matt, I'm going to start you off with a tough one here. Are you ready?
Sure.
These are 2 tough questions here. I don't know if you're going to get either of them. Which basketball player was known as the Black Mamba?
Kobe Bryant.
All right, there we go. On the board.
Kobe.
This is another tough one. In basketball, if a player is leaning away from the hoop during a jump shot, what kind of shot have they just performed?
It's one of Kobe's most famous shots, the fadeaway.
All right, 2 for 2. We are firing today.
Yeah? Well, I mean, I would hope that I would get those 2 right.
All right, this is an easy one. Who is the first U.S.-born NHL player?
What? I told you I don't watch hockey. The first U.S.-born NHL player?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Am I supposed to know this?
Do you have any guesses?
No, I can't even think of... The NHL's been around for over 100 years, Ryan. Is it anyone that I would know?
He did play for Boston at one point.
What, in like the 1910s?
1932.
All right, I'm still not going to get that. We're going to mail that one in.
It's Billy Birch. He was born November 20th, 1900 in Yonkers. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1974. He won the Hart Trophy in 1924. He had 133 points, 282 games. And yeah, he played for...
And you said this was an easy one? Did you know this?
I did not know. I thought you might have gotten it, but yeah, that's
You have too
Billy
much
Birch.
faith in me for a hockey question.
Another hockey question. When did the NHL begin to use 2 referees in each game?
I don't know. 1943.
You were close.
I don't know.
The answer was 1998. So you were close there. A couple of years
I
off.
was close. So they were using one referee for 100 years? Seems a little...
Not efficient. I agree.
Yeah.
True or false? The Denver Broncos have won every Super Bowl they have played in.
True.
False.
No, false, because they got blown
okay,
out by
I'll give it to
Seattle.
you.
I call myself.
Yeah. All right, I'll give that one to you.
Yeah, I
In
call
feet-
myself. If it's within a 5-second window, Ryan, to where I could catch myself, you got to give it to me.
Yeah, I'll give it. We'll call that electronic interference. There, we'll give you that
Ryan,
one. In feet, how tall is basketballer LeBron James?
It's a very either 6'9" or 6'10". He's like 6'8". He's 6'8".
That's correct. You saved yourself again.
He's 6'8".
Okay.
Corrected myself.
When did Michael Jordan win his first NBA championship with the Chicago Bulls?
91.
That's correct. All right. So we've only gotten 2 wrong here so far, and they were both hockey questions. What is the average lifespan of a Major League Baseball in pitches?
I have no idea. Our 2 friends in the group chat are going to know that more than me. I have no idea.
Do you have a guess?
No, I'm not even going to attempt it.
And just a number, any number you can think of.
No, because in terms of pitches, I mean, they will replace balls after one, ground pitch, right? Or one foul ball. I don't know. In terms of just like pitches, like in terms of like being hit, like what are we?
Just
what are
the
we
amount
saying
of time the ball is in play until they have to replace it on average.
I mean, that depends. What if it's a home run? Then you got to replace the ball. What if it's a foul
You do.
ball?
Well, that's why it says on average.
I don't know. 6.
You were close. It was 7. You were very close.
All right. I was about to say, it's a very broad question there.
All right, so we're on our last card here. As I said, we'll do like 10 of these, and that'll get us through the next a lot of weeks. Oh, here's a fun question. Which city did the baseball team, the Red Sox, come from? You can't look at that banner behind you either.
What?
Don't look at that banner
cut
behind
out.
you. That's cheating.
Oh, Boston. There you go. It's not... Oh, it's over to the side. There you go.
In baseball, how many innings was the longest game in the history of the major leagues?
Is it over 20?
Yes, it is.
27.
You're close. It was 26.
All right.
Well,
I'm like in the ballpark.
You did better than last week.
Yeah. Good for me. Got a question about my favorite baseball team back there. That was good. Audio, my headphones cut out for a second, so I almost got that question wrong. Yeah, good week. Is that the last one?
That is. So now, last week you went
Right.
5 of 10. This week you went 6 of 10. So you're getting better. We'll see if you can ever go 10 for 10 one week. That's the goal.
It's not, because you're going to ask me like when the NHL, used a puck instead of a ball, and then it's going to be like some random year. Obviously, that's not. They always use pucks. It's a joke for the people out there. Take that seriously. They used one referee until 1998.
Yes, they did.
What happens if something happened on the other side of the ice? Is it just like you got to eyeball it?
Didn't see it. Too bad. Get away with stuff.
Sounds like Major League Baseball in terms of antiquated rules.
All right, Matt. We have some movies that we need to talk about. We'll start with Pirates of the. What
Caribbean.
did? Okay, all right. I'm glad we.
Yeah,
we,
you
we
were
need to-
right. Glenn
Okay.
Glenn clarified it for us. Caribbean for everything else. I thought it applied to the movie as well, but apparently it doesn't. So thank you, Glenn. It's Caribbean. So you were right, Brian.
Dead Man's Chest. This one was released in 2006. You said it before we started. This is a long film, 2.5 hours of fantasy action adventure. Jack's got a blood debt to pay. He owes his soul to the legendary Davy Jones, ghastly ruler of the ocean depths. But ever crafty Jack isn't about to go down without a fight. Once again, I'm going to say the same thing I said last week about the first movie. I mean, it's okay. I don't know. Maybe if I watched these when I was younger, I would have enjoyed them a little more. As it is, I just view them as solid films. Maybe I'd rewatch it. I mean, the score is good for both of these films. I don't know. I'm having trouble getting engrossed into the narrative. I mean, I'm watching them more. I don't know. Once again, I don't want it to make it seem like these aren't good movies, because objectively they are solid films. I will agree with that, but I don't know, I'm just having trouble getting really involved in these in this series so far.
I think you will enjoy, Marvel or Star Wars more, Ryan. I think I enjoyed the series a lot growing up, but rewatching Dead Man's Chest, I mean, it was so long, Ryan. I would pause it every once in a while to see how much time I had left, and it would still be like over an hour and a half most of the time. If you cut out, there's a lot of editing that could be done to kind of whittle that down, at least to 2 hours. It was long. It was good. It was nice, nice appearance by the what was it, the colonel or whatever, the Commodore when he came back as a pirate almost, right, to try and get his career back. That was something I forgot. Nice little appearance for him. It was all right. I enjoyed the first one more. It's just too long, Ryan. 2.5 hours. Like, Star Wars movies are kind of like that too, but like those 2.5 hours like are a lot more fast paced than this movie. I just think you don't like live action, Ryan. I think that's it, because I think you're going to turn around and give Soul a much better rating. And all of your animated films are going to be so much higher than these two. I think you're just not a live action guy.
It's not. I mean, listen. I've seen some Marvel movies, and those are cool. Like, it's not, I don't have anything against live action. I don't know. Maybe I started watching these at the wrong time. Maybe that's what it was. But you are correct. That's a good prediction out of you. Soul 2020. This was released on Christmas Day. Joe is a middle school band teacher whose life hasn't quite gone the way he expected. His true passion is jazz, and he's good. But when he travels to another realm to help someone find their passion, he soon discovers what it means to have soul. Great cast. You got Jamie Foxx, Tina Fey, Graham Norton, Rachel House. You got Questlove in there. That was nice. That was neat to see. This was very, very good. This was a great film. I'm going to pair it with other people said. This was a great film to just close 2020. This was the film that I needed to just end the year. This is a film that I would definitely watch again. It's weird. It started off getting a lot of rave reviews. Everyone's saying they loved it. 5 stars, 100%, 10 out of 10. It's kind of starting to come back a little bit. Not too much, but now there's some people that are just saying, oh, it was okay, nothing special. I mean, obviously that's going to happen. But this was a beautiful ride that I was taking on shortly before the new year. And I was excited that we got to watch this for the podcast. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd be surprised if you haven't. But if you haven't seen it yet, I would definitely check it out. It's worth your time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Someone that we mutually know, who's one of our former teachers, said it was just all right, which I was kind of surprised at. He's a big movie guy. Yeah, I think this is something that everyone needs to watch more than once too, right? Because this is kind of a different from the normal formula that at least we've watched on this podcast, right? So I mean, a lot of the animated stuff we've seen has been more. I don't know if I would consider this adventure based, right? I mean, this is more kind of like you're delving into some concepts here with Soul, which I liked. It was a change of pace. I do think this is something people should watch more than once. Animation was really cool. I liked that it was a lot more real life based than some of the stuff we've watched previously, right, Ryan? I mean, Frozen's great and all, but it's nice to see like New York as opposed to like, Arendelle. So it was a cool change of pace. Again, nothing wrong with Arendelle. I loved it, Glenn. Loved Frozen, but I'm saying this is a nice little change of pace. He liked it as well. Pretty much everyone that we know mutually has enjoyed it. So it was nice. I liked it. I watched it, I think, New Year's Eve. So that was, I don't know when you watched it, but that was the last movie I watched in 2020. It's because it got to the point where Alabama was blowing out Notre Dame. I said, you know what? Might as well watch this now. So
yeah,
that's how I ended 2020.
Yeah, I watched 3 movies since the last podcast we did, and Soul was number 1. Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie was number 2, and Pirates of the Caribbean was number 3. So that just so everybody knows. Yeah, this was fun. Our first episode of 2021. We got some great stuff coming over on the website and everywhere. The podcasts are all coming back. So obviously you got Best Available Podcast. We got Entry Level Experience coming back this week. So be sure to stay tuned for that. They recorded an episode last night. So that'll be back after their hiatus. We're excited to get them back. Jabberjays is coming back next week on January 11th. So next Monday, Season 2 starts for them. Season 2 of Soundtown starts this week. So we are really getting everything back and rolling. Soundtown will come back this, I think, Thursday is when we did it. Yeah, okay. So that'll be fun. Yeah, we got Halper Bros still rolling too. They haven't taken any breaks, so we're all good there. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming in terms of podcast, in terms of articles too. We had a nice featured collection that you can still view over on our site, our best articles from 2020, favorite articles from 2020. So go check those out. It'll be a fun year, 2021, bestaavailableplayer.com. You can get our social links there too. Matt, is there anything you'd like to say before we close out this episode?
College basketball, Ryan. Got a lot of good games on this week. If you want a mid-major to watch, Drake, the Bulldogs, Ryan, Missouri Valley Conference are on CBS Sports Network tonight. They play the Southern Illinois. Do you know what their mascot is, Ryan?
No clue.
The Salukis. So they play the Salukis of Southern Illinois tonight on CBS Sports Network. Drake, undefeated. I think they're either 11-0 or 12-0. Biggest surprise on the mid-major level this year. Make sure to go check them out. Some other good games on as well. Rutgers and Iowa played a great game on Saturday. Monmouth basketball, tough loss yesterday, back in action today. So some fun stuff in the college hoops realm. But the team to watch this week, Ryan, that no one really has heard of yet, the Drake Bulldogs. They're a fun team to watch.
All right, so there's your college basketball update of the week. We will be back next week. We'll talk about Super Wildcard Weekend. We'll talk about some movies, some other fun stuff. Maybe some baseball stuff will happen. We got hockey coming back next week. We'll talk about that and more. Thank you for listening to this episode. We'll catch you guys again next time.